Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this retrospective. We just went through all of the PS4 physical exclusives, so let's get right into the digital stuff. The first notable exclusive of the year is Grim Fandango Remastered. This was a PS4 and Vita console exclusive. We finally get an easily playable version of the cult hit adventure game by Tim Schafer. This is one of the first 3D adventure games, and it suffers from abstract puzzle solutions and tank controls, but has some amazing stories and characters that are worth checking out, even if you just play it following a guide step by step. Next is Super Stardust Ultra. This update of the early PS3 shooter runs at 60 frames per second in 1080p and has new planets and visual effects. The game has 9 modes including Arcade, Planet, Endless, Survival, Bomber, Time Attack, Impact, Blockade, and the new interactive streaming mode. If you didn't get to check out Super Stardust on the PS3, this is definitely worth looking into. Following that is Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number. This follow-up to the original cult hit top-down retro-style acid trip features new stories taking place before and after the original game through 13 playable characters. Each character has their own special abilities, and the game features new masks that change up the playstyle. Like the original game, it's tough and you have to be quick and concise with your movements. The game also includes a new hard mode for expert players, and unfortunately the console version doesn't include the level editor from the PC that lets you create your own stories and levels. Next up, an interesting one, The Last of Us Left Behind. This expansion to Last of Us has a bit of a history, first launching as DLC for the main game on the PS3 in February 2014. Then in July of that year, bundled with the PS4 update, The Last of Us Remastered, and now almost a year later, it's released as a standalone downloadable title for the PS4. If you didn't play it, but maybe played the original game on the PS3, this is worth checking out. It features a playable Ellie showing her story leading up to the original game. Following that is Nom Nom Galaxy, an interesting genre mashup that's part of the Pixel Junk series. This game features platforming and tower defense gameplay mixed with exploring, terraforming, and building mechanics and can be played co-op. The goal is to build up your soup factory and defend it from enemies. Another great co-op experience, Magicka 2. This follow-up to the original indie hit was developed by different developers in the original game, but some that worked on the DLC for the first game. The game is similar to the original, with 1 to 4 players taking on hordes of enemies while traveling through each stage by chaining together elements to cast ranged or area of attack spells. Since the first game wasn't released on consoles, it's nice to have this available for non-PC gamers, but for those who love the first game, there isn't really much new here for the series. Then we got Ultra Street Fighter 4, the only Street Fighter 4 release on this generation of consoles. It features the newest characters, stages, and balance updates for the game. New characters included Decapra, Elena, Hugo, Poison, and Relento, bringing the roster up to 44. After that, we get the Vanishing of Ethan Carter, an open-world take on the narrative adventure genre. This one has the player exploring a valley looking for the lost Ethan Carter. Along the way, you'll discover different murder scenes and have to solve each crime using your sixth sense, which points to evidence and lets you see spirits.
You're crazy. You've all gone crazy. Where's my mother?
Why are you standing in the sleeper's way?
Get off of him! He's your brother! Get off of him!
A crazy title after this, Hydrophoby Friend. This is a little better suited to the Vita, but it's still cool that it came to the PS4. Hydrophoby Friend is a cult hit visual novel dating sim that's weirdness got it a lot more attention than most in the genre get. Technically it's an otome game as the player controls a girl who just happens to be the only human accepted into the St. Pidgeot Nations Institute, a high school for pigeons who in this world are smart and can talk. Throughout the game you foster your relationship with the pigeon characters, which determines which path the story goes down. The longest route in the game also changes the tone up drastically from a silly dating sim to a silly murder mystery horror story. Overall, it's worth checking out for how weird it is if you're into visual novels. Then we get Journey, a port of PS3's atmospheric adventure hit. Nothing new here, but well worth checking out if you didn't play it on the PS3. This only came out digitally here on the PS4, but there is a rare European release of the Journey Collector's Edition, which comes with Journey, Flow, and Flower, worth checking out if you can find it. Next we get Sword Art Online Rehaao Fragment Director's Cut. Eventually this game will get a physical release in 2016, but for now it's digital only. This is an update of the Vita game Hollow Fragment, which is the second game in the Sword Art action RPG series and a prequel to this year's release. The game does include content from the original untranslated game Infinity Moment, and has a condensed version of that story, so you don't have to worry about missing that one. It was originally released as a pre-order bonus with Lost Song that came out this year physically, but is also available to purchase separately. Hollow Fragment has the player controlling the main series character Kirito, and it takes place in the first game from the novel series, and includes a new Hollow area. Although the canon is a bit different from the anime or light novels, this is worth checking out for big fans of that series. Following that we get Galaxy the Dimensional. This is a game with fast shoot-'em-up gameplay mixed with a roguelike structure and random level design. It has a really cool 80s anime vibe to it. The game is a top-down shooter with the player controlling his ship, taking out enemies and avoiding obstacles throughout the stage while grabbing power-ups and just trying to build up your ship to something that can survive the upcoming levels. Another narrative game after this, Everyone's Gone to the Rapture. Like the studio's previous game, Dear Esther, this is an emotionally driven narrative game where you walk around a deserted town in England trying to figure out what happened to everyone who was there. The story is a bit more obtuse than the popular games in the genre, but rewarding for players who like that kind of storytelling. Throughout the town are light orbs that show conversations and scenes from the town's previous inhabitants to reveal the story to the player. The movement speed is pretty slow for a game in which the only control is walking, so it's not really a good game for players who hate slow-paced experiences. Next up is Volume, a narrative stealth game from the developer of Thomas Was Alone. This game features a number of tools and gadgets that help the player get through the game's 100 levels undetected. The game also includes a level editor that lets you remix the stages and share them. Then we get to Grow Home, a unique physics-based 3D platformer developed by a small team at Ubisoft and well worth checking out. This game has the player controlling a little robot that moves through the environment with its unique control scheme, with the player controlling each arm individually in order to move objects and climb things to reach higher areas. The main goal of the game is to grow your star plant, which allows you to climb higher and access further floating islands. Power-ups found give the robot new abilities to help them progress further into the game too. Overall, a really fun game. It's notably pretty short, but it doesn't overstay its welcome, which is good in my opinion. After that, Saint Seiya Soldier Soul. This is a fighting game by the developer of many Dragon Ball 3D fighting games, including the Xenoverse titles. It's based on an anime that's super popular in Japan and Europe, but not that well known over here, despite having a censored dub release titled Knights of the Zodiac. Soldier Souls is an updated version of the PS3 game, Saint Seiya Brave Soldiers. It includes all 39 characters from that game, including the DLC, and that game was released over here digitally only on the PS3. This game features two story modes. One is taken from the PS3 version, but all the cutscenes have been updated to 3D, and one is a more arcade-like style mode with 12 playable characters that each have their own storyline. Then is One Upon Light, a monochrome top-down puzzle game starring a scientist moving through a factory full of dangerous machines. The scientist also takes damage from light, making avoiding it and staying in the shadows the main gameplay mechanic of the game. Following that, an interesting one, Primal Carnage Extinction. This is a notable console exclusive, but not really a great game. It's an update of the 2012 PC game Primal Carnage, which is an online multiplayer shooter where some players control a team of armed humans in first-person mode and others control dinosaurs in third-person. Unfortunately, the game is a mess with a ton of bugs and overall not a great experience, but still worth knowing about. A really weird one after that, Super Star Wars. This is a port of Super Star Wars from the SNES. It was originally included as a bonus in the special edition of Star Wars Battlefront for PS4, but was released separately so you can't buy it on its own. Another PS3 update after that, Beyond Two Souls. This is the second of David Cage's PS3 narrative adventure games, and one that I don't think got as much attention as Heavy Rain, but I think is overall a much more interesting story in retrospect. This was only released digitally in North America, but I upgraded my PS3 copy to the European release, which included both Heavy Rains and Beyond Two Souls, so that's worth checking out for collectors. Oh, one that caused a lot of trouble after that, Darius Burst Chronicle Saviors. Now, this is a digital-only game that has a pretty high price tag, and notably, Limited Run put out some physical releases of this game for the PS4 and Vita, but it also had a high price tag to match the digital version, and they severely underestimated the demand, which I've never seen so many complaints for one of their releases. This is part of the Darius horizontal shoot-'em-up series, known for its branching path stage design. The game includes two main modes. One is a port of the EX version of the original arcade game, and the other is the Chronicle Saviors mode, which includes a ton of big and small stages accessed on a hex grid that the player moves through. It is a ton of fun and worth checking out for shoot-'em-up fans. Next up is Fat Princess Adventures. This game takes the team-based capture the flag gameplay of the original title and swaps it out for a 4-player co-op gauntlet-like action game. The game features 4 classes: Warrior, Engineer, Mage, and Archer, each with unique attacks. Overall, it's a decent but somewhat repetitive co-op action game that's still mostly notable just for its charming art style. And then, released around the time that they talked about the remake, Final Fantasy VII. Now this is a port of the PC version of the game that renders at HD resolutions instead of just being the upscaled version of the PS1 game that the PS3 got. Overall a good looking version of the original game, but it does have some audio issues which stand out. Still, it's a good way to check out the game if you're looking for a modern way to play it. After that, Nuclear Throne, a retro-style, post-apocalyptic, roguelike, top-down, twin-stick shooter that was released on the PS4, PS3, and Vita. In the game, you play as a mutant moving through the environment, finding bigger and better weapons to take out enemies in order to get to the Nuclear Throne. It's fast-paced, action-packed, and a ton of fun. The last notable digital exclusive of the year is Trine 3: The Artifacts of Power. The third game in the Trine fantasy puzzle platformer series changes up the gameplay significantly from the previous games by moving from 2.5D to 3D gameplay. Like the previous games in the series, Trine 3 features 3 characters who each have their own abilities. Players must use the characters' unique abilities to get through the stages. A player can switch between characters or play co-op with friends. The characters include a knight with a sword and shield, a thief with bow and arrows and a grappling hook, and a wizard who can move stuff around the environment. Overall, a good transition from 2D to 3D gameplay. The biggest critique was the game's length, but it's still worth checking out for a quick playthrough. So thanks for checking out this retrospective. I'm going to get to 2016 soon for both PS4 and Xbox. That'll finish off both of those systems, and the Wii U is done and the Switch is done, so I am almost caught up on modern stuff, and I'm going to be able to get going on the multi-platform stuff. Actually, I've already got 2 years of that filmed. I was going backwards, so that's all out of order, but I'm going to have to edit that together. But yeah, thanks for checking this out. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.